This is an extra special Inside the Lords because I filmed Inside the Lords yesterday, and by the time I got finished filming there was rumours of an election, and by the end of the day there was an election. I want to explain a few things that have happened. I'm not going to talk politically about the fact that they've called an election, which is, as people might have noticed, bonkers, but a couple of things to say. First of all, I had my first ever meeting with the Minister to discuss amendments for the leasehold bill, and it looked as though, would you believe it, my amendments at committee were taken seriously enough that some of them might have become part of the bill. But we were having that meeting at 4:30, which meant that we were around to hear that that bill would not even feature. Then people started telling me what the process was, this process called wash-up. It means that in 2 days, all existing legislation will be decided, what will pass, will not pass, whatever stage it's at in the process. The good news is that certain bills will fall, such as the ban on smoking, that nonsense bonkers ban on banning people from buying cigarettes after a certain age and so on. That's great news. But of course there's a lot of bills that people have been working on where they weren't sure. So the process is this: the government, along with the Labour Party, the official opposition, make a decision about which bills will go forward, and then do deals with the opposition that they will effectively pass. There are amendments allowed to be put forward, but by and large no disruption, because you can't have ping pong because it'll run out of time, and you can actually scupper a bill going through by basically passing an amendment, if you see what I mean, because that would then mean it would run out of parliamentary time, because we've only got until tomorrow night before proroguing. So a very anxious time was had by all of the people who were in the imprisoned for public protection IPP prisoners, because although the Victims and Prisoners Bill was less than adequate in reforming what should be abolished, I mean it is abolished as a sentence but should have been dealt with more, the idea that there would be no reforms was terrible for the families of IPP prisoners and so on. But I was in there today, and it was great that it passed, and so you end up being grateful for small mercies. I actually spoke on that because one of the things that really annoyed me was that everybody was standing up saying how important this was for victims, but it was the Victims and Prisoners Bill, and it was important to note that they too needed to be acknowledged. So that went through. The distressing thing all day has been that there's no sign of the Leasehold and Freehold Reform Bill, or indeed the Renters Reform Bill, which would mean housing just completely dropped on the agenda. And the rumour is that although Michael Gove and his department, at the Levelling Up department, wanted that to go through, that in fact number 10, Rishi, and number 11, Hunt, didn't want to let it through. It now, however, looks, I've just heard, literally, that it will be back tomorrow, Friday, because I'm filming this on Thursday evening. It'll be back tomorrow. And honestly, leaseholders have been tearing their hair out. Again, the leasehold bill is not adequate. It's not amended the way you'd want it to be. It had only got to the end of committee. We were about to go to report when you vote on amendments in the Lords. However, if it's back, something will happen. Some minor reforms will happen. It will be some alleviation. What a terrible way to do politics. What a terrible way to do legislation. And there's a whole range of pieces of legislation that won't see the light of day. Between you and me, I'm delighted not to see most of them back. But don't worry, everyone. The pet abduction bill's back. The pet abduction bill is there. It was one of the first ones noted. And if you were following the very funny article by Toby Young that I discussed on Spectator TV, or indeed if you were involved in any of the discussions around too many laws, you'll know that the pet abduction bill is one of those petty-minded, what on earth are the government spending their time on? That'll do for now as a comment. I've just come out of the media bill. I haven't been able to be involved in the media bill very much because it clashed with other bills that I was following. But I walked in on a plot when I arrived at the Lords this morning of people standing around whispering Leveson. That gave me the clue. And then when they saw me, they said, shh, don't say anything in front of her. Anyway, there's a group of hacked off lords who support effectively state regulation, prescribed regulation, do not want independent regulation of the press. And they were going to be trying to use Wash Up in the context of trying to stop the abolition of Section I can't remember what it is now, Section 40, which is one of these draconian censorious hangovers from Leveson. Actually, it's not being used, but we need to get it out of legislation. So one of the few good things the Tories were doing. And this crowd were going to try and stop that happening. I went off because I was going to Anne Leslie's memorial. And Anne Leslie is one of the most formidable journalists of the generation. She died last year. I adored her as an independent, feisty journalist who asked awkward questions, foreign correspondent, went into war zones, so brave and courageous, everything about her. And I came back and I thought, if they try and attack press freedom, I'm going to have the Anne Leslie spirit. So anyway, I sat through the most internally boring debates on public service broadcasting before the hacked-off crowd set about trying to wreck the bill on that part. Lord Panic, who is a law lord who I disagree with on so many things, was magnificent. The usual suspects in terms of my side and press freedom didn't speak, but the hacked-off crowd was so atrocious that I lost my temper and spoke at the end very quickly, just to stick the boot in. And also to mention that, regulation, state regulation in the form of Ofcom, when it comes to the likes of GB News, by the way, is not without controversy, because they were trying to suggest that that was the way forward. Just to say that one of the noble lords involved in that was Tom Watson, Lord Watson. Remember him? The person who used parliamentary privilege to destroy the reputations of people by quoting and citing as fact a discredited person, in fact a paedophile it ended up being, who accused in a conspiratorial fashion senior members of government of being child abusers and so on. Absolutely disgraceful. He's, apologised in the House of Lords for it, but still, he put in an amendment that said that the problem was that the media misrepresented people and told lies. I mean, how I didn't guffaw. I didn't name him in the House of Lords, but I'm saying it here because honestly I was so mad. But anyway, the Lib Dems, the Labour backbenchers, tried their damnedest, and to the credit of the government, with the help of Lord Panic, a crossbencher and Law Lord, and actually, to be fair, the Labour front bench, we've just voted it through and the media bill has passed, and the dreaded, awful Section 40 has been abolished at long last. Press freedom has had a minor victory, and that's for Anne Leslie as far as I'm concerned.